Good morning, students. So today let's start the topic adaptation. Now, adaptation means the changes or modifications that the particular organism adapt in order to cope with the changing environment. Now, we know that the abiotic factors like temperature, light, rain, soil, etc., all these factors somehow or the other have effect on the living organisms. Now, sometimes suppose the temperature is very high or the temperature is very low. So what happens? The organisms, they undergo some modifications among their bodies. So that particular modifications are known as adaptations. Now, these are just in simple terms, just adjustment to cope with the changing environment. Now, adaptation may be morphological, physiological, or behavioral. Now, morphological adaptation means the changes that take place in the structural organization. Now, structural modifications to cope with the changing environment, that is known as morphological adaptation. Physiological adaptation means the changes will take place in the physiology or the phenotype of the organisms. That particular thing is known as physiological. In a very simple example, the altitude sickness. Now, sometimes what happens, some people, when they move to an higher altitude, due to lack of oxygen, they feel suffocation, fatigue, nausea, heart palpitation. So these problems are known as the mountain sickness or altitude sickness. Now, in order to overcome them, the body immediately adapts some strategies, like they will start breathing fast. So body will also respond to that, and ultimately that particular fatigueness is overcome. So this is a type of physiological adaptation. Now, behavioral adaptation means change in the behavior. The organism will maintain some behavioral changes in order to cope with the changing environment. So these are the three basic things, important things we will study in the adaptation part. Now, again we come across some important terms like phenotypic plasticity. That is the range of variability shown by phenotypes. Now, we already know what is phenotype, the external appearance. So, external appearance will respond or will change in response to the changing environment. Fluctuations will there. So, these particular changes are known as phenotypic plasticity. Again comes ecophens. Ecophens means the phenotype variables of an essentially homogeneous genetic stock. That means the particular organisms are all homogeneous and they will show some variations. So that is called ecophens. Next is ecotype. A species having a wide range of distribution has a number of genetically adapted population. So that is called an ecotype. And next, ecocline. Ecocline means the intermediate forms in the transition region between two ecotypes is called ecocline, which is caused due to hybridization. Okay, now let's study in details the various adaptations undertaken by plant in order to cope with the environment. So first adaptation is towards the light. Now, based on the intensity of light, if it is very hot or the light is present properly, then we call those plants as heliophytes. That is, the plants growing in bright light are called heliophytes or sun plants, and those which grow in shade are known as sciophytes or shade plants. Now, when the plants are growing in sunlight, so they will have to adjust to that particular environment, and some important characters like the leaves will be small, they will be arranged vertically or at an angle to the sunlight. Cuticles will be thick. Stomata will be sunken. Then palisade parenchyma will be developed. Spongy parenchyma will be completely absent. Cells will be small without or very little intercellular space. Internodes are short and thick, and roots are extensive. Why roots are extensive? So that they can grow properly and take the water, absorb the water. So these are the modifications of the heliophytes. These are adaptations. Now, heliophytes, for example, Tectona grandis, Soria robusta, that means the teak plant, sal plant, all these are sun-growing, sun-loving plants, and they are growing in sunny areas. Then sciophytes are those which grow in shade areas. For example, Nyctanthus. Nyctanthus means the Shawali Phul all of you are familiar with it. The important characters which are modified are their leaves will be large, soft and thin. Then roots will be few, not so much developed. Leaves will be arranged horizontally. Cells are large with large intercellular spaces. Cuticle is thin and the stomata is not at all sunken. So these are the modifications or adaptations in order to cope with the environment. Now the next adaptation is water scarcity and heat. Now we know that for growth of the plant, water is the most essential part. Now if water is not there, so plant will have to survive. So what are the modifications? These plants will develop roots which will penetrate deep and are widespread. Shoot system will be smaller. Leaves will be thick and they are dull green color. Stomata has to be sunken, because if stomata is proper, then transpiration will take place. If transpiration means the loss of water, if water is given out, then the plant will not survive because water is already not available, and if they give out the water in the present in the body, they will die. So for that particular reason, stomata are always sunken. So these are the modifications. Now next come adaptations to aquatic environment, that is the water plants. For aquatic adaptations, these plants are also known as the hydrophytes. They are submerged, floating or emergent. Different types of hydrophytes we find. For example, lotus, water lily, all of you know about these hydrophytic plants. Now these plants, the xylem tissue is reduced. Why xylem is reduced? Xylem is needed for water conduction. They are already present in water. So conduction to such a proper extent is not essential, so it is reduced. The plants are covered by mucilage. Mucilage means the plastic type of coat is present so that the plant doesn't get rotten in water. They are soft and flexible plants. Roots are poorly developed. Root pockets are present. Instead of root cap, root pockets are present. And air is stored in the roots and petiole, which help in floating in the water, and stomata is completely absent. Next come adaptation to saline habitat. Saline habitat, these plants are known as halophytes. For example, Rhizophora, the mangrove plants, they grow in saline habitat. Now these plants, they possess some salt secreting glands. They store water in special type of tissues. They develop special type of supporting roots like the prop roots which you have already studied in class 11. The pneumatophores are present. Pneumatophores means the roots which help in gaseous exchange, and leaves are leathery, thick cuticle and sunken stomata. So these are the modifications for the saline habitat. Now we are already telling that plants are modified, but animals also show some type of modification strategies in order to cope with the environment. So these strategies, first is the migration. Now if the situation is not proper, the organisms or animals will move from one place to another. The two-way movement of an animal for food, climate and other reasons is known as migration. Now this may be either daily, seasonal or periodic. If they are daily moving from short distance, called daily migration. Seasonal means on the basis of the season, and periodic means very frequently due to excessive growth of the population. If they cannot survive, they will just move to another place. For example, the golden plover, which is a winter visitor in India. So these organisms, they just migrate and move to environmental conditions which are suitable for their growth. Next is camouflage. Camouflage is the ability to blend with the surrounding or background. That means in order to mislead their predators, they will just develop or adjust themselves to the surrounding situation and will take their external appearance. Now for example, the praying mantis. The praying mantis, it adjusts with the surrounding and thus it cannot be recognized by the organisms or the predators. Now these are actually protective measures in order to cope so that they do not become prey of the predators. And sometimes what happens, these are measures also in order to achieve their food. Now suppose it is hiding, it is not being recognized, so the thing which is its prey will easily come near it because it doesn't know that whether it is an animal or just the leaf or what. So it will come and it can easily take its food. So these are either it is prevention measure or it's an advantageous predation measurement. Next is mimicry. Mimicry is the resemblance of one animal with the other to confuse the third person. Now it will mimic or it will imitate in such a way that the third person doesn't recognize whether it is the main thing or the something else. Now the animal which resembles for driving benefit is called the mimic, and on which it is being resembled is called the model. So mimicry is of two types. One is the Batesian mimicry, one is the Mullerian mimicry. Now Batesian mimicry means the type of mimicry in which the organism completely resembles the other one. That is, the mimic resembles completely as that of the model. For example, the viceroy butterfly, which exactly looks like that of the monarch butterfly. The monarch butterfly is a poisonous one and it is very distasteful, so the predators do not come to eat it. So taking the shape or structure similar to that of the monarch butterfly, the viceroy butterfly is prevented from being a prey. Mullerian mimicry means there are two organisms which will resemble very closely to each other. For example, the queen butterfly and the monarch butterfly. Now the monarch butterfly, as we have already told that it is very distasteful and poisonous. The queen butterfly also, it resembles that of the monarch butterfly. So it becomes difficult to identify which one is the mimic, which one is the model. Now next is the warning coloration. This is normally seen in the dart frog in the tropical rainforest. Its color is very bright and so the predators easily recognize it. It is also poisonous, so they do not come near it. Echolation. Echolation is normally observed in case of bats. They produce a high frequency sound and that sound will strike the various objects, that is the food, and will return back in the form of it. They are converted into echoes and will return back, and then it is identified by the organism and they go to that place to take their prey. Next is hibernation and estivation. Hibernation means winter sleep and estivation means summer sleep. That is, in order to cope with the environment, the organisms will either for some time they will suspend their activities. Now due to excessive cold also, the organisms develop some extra characters. For like they will develop hairs in their body, they will develop some type of proteins which will help them to cope with the excess cold condition. Now water scarcity also seen in case of animals, like for example the desert animals like the camel. Now in order to cope with the water scarce condition, they will develop some modification, like they will maintain their bloodstream moisture, then they will not urinate, they will store the urea in their body, and whenever water is present again, they will just adjust to that particular situation. Now behavioral adaptations which are seen by the desert lizard. Now this adjusts according to the situation. If it is the body temperature, if it is below its comfort zone, it will go to the sun and take the heat. If the body temperature is very high, then it will just go to a shady place and will adjust to the surrounding. So that is the behavioral adaptation. And phenotypic adaptation, as we have already said, that these are adaptation to response to favorable or unfavorable condition, which is seen in case of altitude sickness. If suddenly the oxygen supply is less, the person will adapt modifications to cope with the environment. So these are the different types of adaptation that we see in plants and animals.